Hi, this is TriggerM8. TriggerM8 is a Max for Life device that can modulate up to 8 assignable parameters within the Ableton environment. This creates massive changes in your instrument and effect settings quick and easy. Here are a few examples of what TriggerM8 can do. TriggerM8 comes in two versions, audio and MIDI. When using the MIDI version, you can include or exclude the note on and off events to trigger new modulation values. When using the audio version, you can set the clock to a synchronized timing or a free rate in milliseconds to trigger new modulation values. Assign a destination parameter by clicking this map button on the right. It will start blinking until you click any assignable parameter that is available for modulation. The movement of each modulator can be seen here by looking at the knob animations. To trigger a new modulation value, every trigger has to pass with a certain probability, which can be set with this probability control. The bias control will determine if the generated random value will be biased towards a higher or lower value. The slew control will set the time of how fast the modulation will move towards its next value, and this curve control right next to it shapes the modulation time to be linear or curved. Up next, you can reduce the full modulation range with both the minimum and the maximum controls to limit the modulation to a certain range. Each control can be set to a user-specific value or a random value by clicking the dots right next to the control value. When randomized, TriggerM8 will modulate the control values internally, which can bring a lot of variation into your modulation. The probability of the internal randomizer can be set here if you do not want randomized values on every trigger. Next to the parameter titles at the top, you can click a blue or a black dot. Clicking the blue dot will randomize an entire column of parameter controls at once. The black dot will initialize the entire column back to the initial values. If you want to adjust the value of a parameter column manually, then press the column button right here. The button will start blinking red to indicate that you are now adjusting values in columns. Now use the top row values to adjust the entire column accordingly. Click the column button again to exit. If you need to mute a modulation row, simply press the mute button right here. Clicking the question mark button in the top right corner will show extra parameter information while hovering over the device controls. The M button right here will bring up the device settings menu for the trigger conditions and a few extra modulation parameters. When using the MIDI version, you can choose if a modulation row will respond to all incoming note pitches or a single pitch exclusively. Setting a modulator to a single pitch can be very useful when you want to feed it a MIDI drum pattern that has multiple notes playing simultaneously. Right here, you can decide if you want to include or exclude the MIDI note on and MIDI note off events as triggers. When using the audio version, you can click this button to toggle each modulation row to its own clock division in sync rate mode or to milliseconds in free rate mode. Both versions have this parameter control to reduce the amount of all modulators back to an initial value that can be set using the initial value control right here. Thank you so much for watching the video, and please visit my Gumroad page to download or purchase my Max devices. The link is in the description. Have a great day making music.